Welcome to the show. I am your host, Paul Britton. It's real to real talk. And guess who is back? Shady's back. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's Sergio. Sergio, Godfather of the Pod. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. How are you, Paul?
I'm awesome. I love that you're joining us from just random hotel in Houston, and that's just your background. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
guess
it's
what?
such a plain background. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a some sort of holding cell. So
Well, I mean, I guess you could consider a hotel a holding cell, where
yeah,
it's,
yeah, absolutely.
if you want to take the really morbid negative look at that.
Yeah, I've been sentenced to 3 weeks. So
Right. We're doing 3 movies today.
yes,
I picked the order. Uh, I was going to tell you before,
uh-huh.
but I want to say it was for some reason I just forgot. Uh, we're we're going to go in order of interest in how much I want to hear you talk about them. Okay.
Okay, got it.
So we got 3 movies to do. We're doing Venom, The Last Dance, Salem's Lot, and Conclave. So let's start her off.
Yeah,
Venom, The Last Dance. We definitely came on here and did the most recent Venom movie.
yes, we did.
Um, I these movies are so completely forgettable for me that I can't remember anything that either of us said.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Okay.
In fact, I had to. I think I told you beforehand, or maybe I didn't. But I had I had this intention of going back to watch the first two movies again because, like you just said, I couldn't recall a thing
Right.
about like major plot points and things like that, characters.
Right.
Um, and I didn't get to.
I don't think I don't know
It,
that it matters,
no,
honestly.
no, it didn't. It really
You know,
didn't.
the one thing that I knew was that Eddie and Venom were sucked into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right,
But that was part of the Homecoming. Or no,
right, exactly. No,
No
no,
Way Home.
no
The
way
No
home.
Way
Yeah,
Home
yeah,
movie. That
yeah.
was so like it was like, okay, I know that. That's all I needed to. And then like I don't understand the point of that either because it's that that is this series to it. That is just the absolute very definition of the
Absolutely.
series. It's
Yeah.
like we're gonna do something, and then it's like,
Eh,
maybe we're not really
maybe
doing
not.
anything. Um, so the interesting history about this series is that people loved the first one because it was campy
Hmm.
and funny and over the top.
Right.
And I watched the first one and I did not when I was watching it, I did not think, oh, this is trying to be campy and
Right.
funny and over the top.
No, I mean the the thing that each of these movies suffers from is for me the
Yeah.
fact that you're going to these films with the intention of really only seeing what one character is up to,
Right.
and that isn't the character that carries the weight of the movie
Right.
in any of the three, you
Right.
know. And so, yeah, I don't really, I wanted to go in and come. This is going to be the episode, Paul, where you're going to hear me say the phrase "I wanted to" for each one of these. Okay.
Okay.
um, and like you said, when it came down to this last installment, I really was like, okay, I've heard great things, and not never in detail, but just sort of general reviews were pretty strong.
Right.
Um, and so I at least went in with this notion of like, okay, well, I'm looking forward to talking to Paul about it, and
Right.
so here I am.
Yeah.
And I came out of the theater. I mean, we're going to talk about it, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Here we are. We're talking
Yeah,
about it.
then we're talking about it. Yeah.
So if you liked the campiness and over the top of the first one,
Hmm.
and you liked the campiness and over top of the second one, this one is by far in a way, without any doubt, the most campy and the most over the
Oh,
top.
yeah,
This one
absolutely.
is this one is undeniably, outwardly, and obviously funny.
Yeah.
How funny it is, mileage may vary.
Yeah. I think it's the one that you almost wanted the first one to be. You wanted this kind of sort of silly energy,
Yeah.
even though it's a dark character. It was never played as purely that, even in the comics. You know,
Right.
Venom was one of the few characters that if I came across a comic or a page from a comic that there was some sort. It was a character I was always fascinated by.
Okay.
And when it was given its treatment in the third Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, I remember even with the little knowledge I have about comic books and even this character, I remember thinking to myself, that wasn't the Venom that
This didn't. Yeah,
it's
it was off.
right. As anything that was a good portrayal of that character. So when these movies started to come out, I was excited, but it seems like each one has left me with the factor.
Yeah, this is it. They are fun,
Yeah,
and that is it.
and that's it. Yeah.
Like I I appreciate that they are fun.
Mhm.
Like, and so I have fun with them,
Right.
but also I like you can be fun and good,
Right.
or you can even be fun and great. I'll say like movies for me that are fun and great are like Bullet Train and
Yeah.
and Free Guy. Those are
Mhm.
just bonkers off the wall fun movies that are nonstop, over the top, can't be fun.
Right.
These are just campy fun, and it's like, and I didn't even really think the first one was super campy fun. Like I
Right.
felt the first one was, if it was funny, was more unintentionally funny. Like it was
Yes.
like, is this real? And then I don't know if the second one was like, you know what, people thought this was funny, so we're gonna lean into this, or it was like, you know what, we need to out funny we need to out over the top the first one, and so not enough people realized that we were being funny,
Right.
because the first one was panned. Like the critics did not like the first one.
Yeah.
I felt like the second one had, and this one had a little bit better. I could have checked IMDb, but or Rotten Tomatoes or something just to confirm that
Right.
feeling. But um, this one, and I respect movies that are for the fans. Like I'm going to be
Right.
honest. Like I'll. Uh, as long as the fans are having fun and liking it,
Mhm.
that's fine. Like I don't mind going to see a Rotten Tomatoes movie where the critics give it a 30%, but the fans are giving it 80-90%.
Yeah.
That's good. That's fine. That's a movie for the fans. And
Sure.
that's certainly what these movies are usually. But also, it's just like there's no reason why you can't make a movie like this that the critics love also.
Right. I think overall, when I'm looking for the numbers that you just spoke. I wanted
Oh,
to
okay.
see where they're at. It's 37%.
Yeah.
The fans is 80%. So it falls right exactly where
Exactly.
you're saying.
Right.
So and that's, I think, the thing is one of the things that you and I always talk about is really why you and I decide to go see movies.
Right.
This is the kind of movie that I don't go in with high expectations. I just
Yeah.
know it's that popcorn, film that,
Right.
you know, I'm just there to enjoy it,
For sure.
and
For
and
sure.
and nowadays, since I only get to see you every so often, it's
Yeah.
even more so made me realize that I choose my movies for entertainment.
Uh-huh.
And a movie like this, I really searched for nothing else, and I'm not disappointed because it really didn't give us much else.
Right. Right.
Even with the intent that this was going to be the end of this
Mhm.
particular trilogy, right?
Mhm. Yep.
It just was like, okay, cool,
Yep.
you know.
So, just as an aside, this movie finds Eddie and Venom at a crossroads, as always. Um, uh, they they have Venom has been discovered by his creator. We get some minimal understanding of Venom's backstory, and
Right, right,
it's really super minimum. Where his creator or his father or exactly is this character called Null, who I
right.
literally know nothing about in the
Yeah,
Marvel universe. And we also find out, as more about the government efforts to secure symbiotes that have found their way to Earth,
right.
and are all over Earth. But there is now a government effort to concentrate all of the symbiotes into a single area,
Yeah,
and uh, you know hint hint on what the area is that they're trying to
yeah,
concentrate them
exactly.
in. And and we also get to see other Venoms, you know, and
Right.
not and you know, unlike the thing about the thing about the second one is that it had the insane Woody Harrelson performance.
Right.
This doesn't have an insane Woody Harrelson performance,
No.
but you do get a lot more symbiotes,
Yeah.
for good or ill.
Right.
And no, but I did like seeing other symbiotes kind of
Oh,
taking
sure.
over, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and that was fun. But
Each one just happened to
ultimately,
be a different color, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, which is fine, and that's
yeah, yeah.
cool, and that's fun. And I'm sure that there was a storyline in the comics where there
Right,
were a
for
whole
each of
bunch of other
those. Yeah,
symbiotes, and I know nothing about it. I'll be just being honest, and this did not make me interested enough to look up on the Wikipedia or the, you know, the wiki for Marvel. You know,
yeah.
what?
You,
Tell me more about what this the comic that
right.
this line is based off of.
You answered my next question, and but I still want to comment on it because the character that is the father of the symbiotes is, like you said, Null.
Right.
And I only know this because I went to my resident expert, Nick Kramer.
Right.
This movie is intended to introduce Null as a baddie for like future films, which is why, you know, as you know, we don't get much.
Almost nothing.
If you're not a reader of the comic books, then you have no clue,
No,
you know,
none.
who this character is. You
They
know,
spend maybe cumulative 5 minutes on him.
oh, less than that. Yeah, I mean that's
Maybe.
generous.
Like, and I'm
So
not talking about where he's on screen. I'm just talking about,
right,
you know, combine, you know, the 30 seconds before and after he's
exposition.
mentioned
Yeah, yeah,
plus his screen time, and it's
right.
about 5 minutes.
And yet, I think this is the point you're making. I didn't walk out disappointed that I didn't know, nor looking forward to anything.
Right.
You know,
But I have no expectations on Null,
right?
other than my only expectation on Null is if he is brought back, I need some actual time to understand what the hell's
Well,
going on
sure,
there. Yeah.
yeah. I
So
mean, this is one of those things where, while I know this isn't, you know, um, Marvel Universe per se,
yeah.
uh, it it goes the way of the latest phase of Marvel movies that
Yeah.
they appear for some reason,
Yeah.
and there's supposedly this larger intent,
Yeah.
but then there's no payoff.
I have to
Oh,
say the MacGuffin in this movie was incomprehensible. Like
okay,
literally incomprehensible. Like there was a like basically a beacon attached to
right.
Eddie and Venom, but only when Venom is in full Venom form.
It felt so made up.
Why
Yeah,
that doesn't take effect when Venom is in full Venom form when he's horse Venom, I don't. Again, it's a MacGuffin that I don't get it.
yeah,
They don't try to
no,
explain it at any point.
yeah,
It's just like this is a plot device solely to explain how Null's, you know, army of symbiote hunters are going to find Venom and then sometimes
right,
not be able to find Venom. Like to,
exactly,
to make it convenient to the plot when we need to have Venom fight
right,
somebody.
exactly, and you know, like I said, to give it this sort of supposedly further reach, but
Yeah.
you know, for future movies, but yeah, no, it felt very lazily done.
Yeah.
In fact, you could sit and debate if you wanted to waste any amount of time. You know, did the writers come up with the codex first, or did they come up with Null first? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because they both were absolutely meaningless in the bigger picture of this film.
I
And so many things that happened within the film for me were
yeah,
just felt like, hey, like somebody said, hey, you know what we've never done? We've only shown what happens when the symbiote goes from person to person. What if we did a sequence where
yeah,
they did it with other living creatures? And it's like there were all these random ideas that were sort of just like, yeah, we got to include that. And that's really what this film felt like.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it was and it's interesting because I feel like there was a 2 hour, 20-minute cut of this movie where there was a lot more time spent on Null and the Codex.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is just way too long.
Yeah.
We can either cut everything about Null and the Codex other than the absolute bare minimum in order to just
Right.
move the plot along,
Right.
or we can cut all of the stuff of Venom turning into a frog and a fish and a turtle. And they're like, just cut the plot stuff.
Well, listen, I'm waiting. and if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do my impersonation of you. I could have done without the entire family in the van. Like,
Yeah, no, for sure.
I thought of you in the middle of the
Yeah,
film going, I think this is one of those moments where Paul's going to say,
yeah.
this could have all been left out.
All of it, but except the problem was they wrote themselves into a corner
Yeah,
because they pushed the plot forward in the third act.
exactly.
Why they would have those characters push the plot forward in the third act,
Yeah.
beyond me. Like,
And yeah, and the entirety, I mean, and again, it's a movie. I
right,
get it.
right,
But you're going to give this goofy family
yeah,
complete access.
yeah,
Like, they're able
total
to make
access,
it
yeah,
into this secure
yeah,
area.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like, yeah.
I will say though, the most genuinely funny scene for me was carpool karaoke. Like, that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
genuinely funny scene, and you
That
don't
was
get
fun.
that scene without the.
Absolutely.
Although I think you could, considering it was taking place in Vegas. By the way, they didn't use remotely. They didn't take advantage of being in Vegas remotely enough.
No.
Like, I just want to say that.
Yeah.
They could have very easily had like Eddie get up on stage as Venom and forced him to like sing karaoke with a lounge singer
Sure.
or something.
Yeah.
But all right,
Somebody
I think
almost forgot Miss Chen too.
I forgot Miss Chen. I had no idea who that was. All right, like literally no idea.
That's the only reason I found it funny is because I remember who she was.
Okay,
Yeah.
damn
She
it.
was the storekeeper in the
I'll
first two
believe
movies.
you.
The
I
first
believe
two.
you.
Okay.
Okay. So we've reached the point in the movie, in the show, where we have to explain our ratings. Rating. By the way, Sergio invented the rating scale. Except, so okay, so we do tacos instead of stars here. And if we feel like a movie deserves a little extra, rather than doing like half a taco, we add guac. Why? Because nobody eats to have a fucking taco. So, Sergio, you go first. Where are you on this?
Oh man, Paul, I really wanted to give this 3 tacos. I really did.
You can
Because
do it.
for me, 3 is, we've said this before, is something I'll consider seeing again.
Right.
But now that I've seen all 3, I don't have an interest in seeing any of them again. So I'm going to go 2 plus guac.
Yeah.
Just because it falls that much short, just for lack of interest. It just didn't carry me.
Yeah. This is a 2 taco movie that I don't even have the energy to change the ranking, so I'm just going to say 2 plus guac also.
Love it.
That's where I am with this. All right. Our next movie, which I think neither of us are going to be as forgiving on, is the most recent installment from Stephen King, or not installment from, but rather take on a Stephen King book.
Yeah,
One of his longest, right? This is like a pretty long book, right? If I
It's a pretty long book, but
it's not like The Stand or anything.
No, It and The Stand, yeah, they stand alone, but it's
all right, it's Salem's Lot. It's now streaming on Max. This movie clearly was supposed to have a release, a theatric release. And I actually did see that like this movie has been like popping around for like 2 years, and originally was supposed to have a theatric release, and then you're just like, man, I think we're just gonna put it on Max. So Sergio, you are the local Stephen King expert. Anytime I do something anytime I see something with Stephen King, I am absolutely going to call you. And if you tell me, well, I'm not available for another month, I will more than likely say, all right, I can hold on to it until then.
I appreciate it.
So was the case on this. I actually saw it a week ago, but or a couple weeks ago. But I had questions, and if you could just start with your relationship with the book Salem's Lot.
So in my house somewhere in a closet are basically my entire Stephen King collection. Salem's Lot is actually one of the earliest books that I read. And to be fair, this book was 1975. The first iteration on any kind of, medium was the 2-part television series in 79.
Yeah.
And the book is fantastic. There are elements within each of the 3 iterations, as being the third we're going to talk about, that really stayed loyal to the book and its plot, and even the mechanisms within the story.
Yeah.
And so whenever I see something whenever I see Salem's Lot, okay, this is the third time, because 75, or I'm sorry, 79, David Soul played the main character. 2004, it was Rob Lowe. I'm always curious,
Okay.
and in all three cases, they're never going to be the best movies, but I love it when a movie or series attempts to stay true to the material.
Okay.
And that's one of the things. Frankly, I have a take on this one,
Okay.
a theory based on the book, but I'll
Okay.
get into that later.
All right.
One
Yeah.
of my favorite books, absolutely.
Okay, because interestingly enough, one of Stephen King's favorites of the ones he
Mhm.
is of his own books.
Oh yeah,
The quote I read from him was that it's one of his favorites because it is an homage, or an honorarium, or whatever you want to say, to the death of small town America, is
yeah,
what this is supposed to represent.
right.
And being Stephen King, he couldn't just do that, he had to do it in vampire form.
Of course.
So I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say this is probably Stephen King's only vampire book. Is that a fair statement?
I don't. That's a good question.
He doesn't do this a lot. As far as I know, he rarely takes devices that are already out there and is like, here,
right.
this is, I'm going to do my take on this. He's really good at just coming up with, being
There's
adjacent to
right.
things, but this is like just a straight up vampire story.
Yeah, he has had vampire characters in other books, but this one is his, like his pure.
Right.
This is his take on the vampire novel.
Right.
And one of the biggest things that came out of it, sort of both book-wise and cinematically, is the way in which he described Barlow.
Okay.
Very much a throwback to Nosferatu,
Right.
that version, but even more demonic. And so, no, he has had vampire characters in other books, but this is by far his only vampire-based novel.
Okay. And you love Dracula. I know that you're
absolutely.
a big Dracula fan. So are you in general like a vampire guy, or?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Zombies number one. George Romero by all means.
Right there with you. Yeah.
And then vampires, and then after that, it kind of because I'm really not into the horror genre.
Right.
But you can do so much with vampires,
Okay.
except for Twilight. And I'm connected.
Well, Twilight didn't really do anything with vampires.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. No. My point. Yeah.
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 So, all right. Go. You said you had something prepared, and I want to hear your prepared statement.
So, okay, this is where I have to confess. I finished this movie about 10 minutes before we went on air.
Oh wow. Okay.
And only because I love this book so much. And I kept putting it off because I was scared about what I was going to see.
Okay.
Because obviously it's not going to hold up in terms of quality, but I loved the 1979 two-part television show that was made for this film.
Yep.
There's two occasions, in my opinion, that television versions of Stephen King stuff have worked.
Okay.
The first one is Salem's Lot. The second one is It.
Okay.
I'm sorry, not It.
I was going to say, people. I'm surprised that you
there's
say
three
that.
actually.
Okay.
There's It and The Stand.
Okay.
So anyway,
which The Stand? Are we talking about the sci-fi channels?
No. Gary Sinise. This was for television. The one that was
Sci-Fi Channel.
Was it?
I could have been wrong. I could be wrong. Okay.
Yeah, the one that was the most recent, I panned after the first episode. I quit. I'm like, nope. Okay. Sorry, I know this book way too well.
Okay.
So anyway, so I put it on. I was gonna watch it. I had every intent because I knew we were gonna talk about it, but I was just like last possible second. Okay. And I'm glad I waited.
Okay.
I'm glad I waited because there is an element to this film or this version that leaves the door open slightly, which makes me curious as to what the future may hold.
Okay.
Because there's an element in the book that isn't part of the
bless you.
Thank you. There's a scene that opens the book that introduces us to Ben and Mark.
Okay.
And then the book flashes back to tell the story.
Okay.
The way this film plays out I wonder, is someone somewhere writing like
A sequel?
yeah. And I'm glad this movie didn't get a theatrical release because the entire time I watched it, I thought this is not much more than maybe a television movie in terms of its quality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I liked that I didn't recognize most of the people playing the characters in this story, except
Yeah.
for the sheriff,
Right.
and I think that's it. Oh, and I'm sorry, Dr. Cody.
Yeah.
Um, I actually enjoyed this more than I thought I was going to because it stayed very close to the book
Okay.
and massive plot holes notwithstanding, it moved along. It
Well,
didn't, you know,
the only way it could move along was if they left massive plot holes and
right,
just
of
were like,
course. Yeah.
you know what, we're making this for people who've read the book, and this is going to be a Cliff's Note version of
Yeah.
that, you know.
Right. But there was it was the first act was quite slow. But once
Okay.
things picked up,
Yes.
it just I'm just glad that it moved
It does
because
move. You're right.
I couldn't have stood much more than I did and
Yeah,
still have enjoyed it.
it does move. And by the way, yeah, I mean, you have to recognize Alfie Woodard, who plays Dr. Cody.
Yes,
Like that.
yes. I'm sorry. I
That's
couldn't think
like,
of the name.
yeah, yeah. And she's fantastic. I'll you know, I can't be too mad at anything that Alfie Woodard is
Sure.
cast in, but
Yeah.
as somebody who has no relationship to Salem's Lot at all,
Okay.
man, I had no idea who anybody was or why I cared about anybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you mentioned his name, Ben. Holy crap! Like, just all of a sudden, there's a guy and he's there, and like, here's the biggest plot hole I have ever seen in a movie that is supposed to be a love song to small town America is small town boy comes back after 30 years and nobody has a fucking clue who he is and has ever seen him before in his life. And the teacher is just like, oh, really? You used to be from here? Bullshit. That teacher has absolutely been teaching at that school long enough to have
known him.
Like, he would have been his, you know, 5th grade teacher. That would have been his first ever class.
Oh, yeah.
And do people at least recognize him in the book?
No.
Like,
From what I recall, I can't say that they did. I'm trying to remember.
How does Susan not know him? Like, this woman who, you know, he ends up having a relationship with, she doesn't even know him, and she's reading his stupid fucking book and doesn't recognize him the first thing he walks in the door, and didn't know him when she was in kindergarten and he was in 5th grade, and like was sad when he moved because she always liked him. Come on.
There's something to be said for maybe she wasn't around when he was young, but
she
I'm trying to
grew up
remember.
there.
Yeah.
She's from there. No.
Yeah.
No, this is the only small town. This is the only small town in all of America where the entire population rotates every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, everybody moves away. No. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Like, my dad has family members that have lived in the same small town in Western Pennsylvania since 100 years before my dad was born.
Right.
Not 100, like, well, just, you know, 100, you know, my dad got land. My dad's family got land in small town Western Pennsylvania for fighting in the Revolutionary War, and they stayed there forever. Like, people don't leave these small towns, and it's that nobody knows him. It blows my mind.
Right. No, and I forgive that because the book itself is also rushing to get to the main story, you know.
Okay.
Maybe not rushing is not the right word, but yeah, no, there's things that for me in this movie I laughed out loud because I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I mean, I don't mind spoiling this.
Yeah.
How the heck did they get to their cars? How did the vampires get to the cars? Who put them in the trunks? Like,
yeah, no,
you know. these were again.
Somebody has to spend like an hour and a half, no, like 3 hours driving them all to this.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
and here's and my biggest problem with Ben showing up in the small town is at no point do they explain what he's doing there. Like I actually went back and read the Wikipedia on the book to, just to kind of like, I gotta fill in these friggin' holes, and it's like it's such an easy, straightforward thing.
Exactly.
Why he's there, and to have nobody like this clearly has a 240 version of it, a 2 hour. Like they filmed enough for a 2 hour 40 up to 3 hour movie.
This could have been a miniseries.
Yeah, it needed to be a limited 3-part miniseries, and I would have enjoyed it 70 million times more.
Sure,
because I would have cared. The things I will give this movie credit for, though, are the fact that, I mean, the first kill is shocking, and unbelievable, and really, really difficult, like really difficult, and that I give them credit. I get it because that would be something would be very easy to change,
right?
And they didn't change it, and that was good.
Yeah, there's there's a whole in the book. There's a whole plot with Father Callahan. Okay. That back to your point of this could have been a 3-part series and would have been so much better. I think that's the thing that for me was the hardest part of this movie is just how rushed everything was, but still trying to like keep these characters that appear in the book in the film.
Right.
There's just an absolutely beautifully written subplot to Father Callahan, and actually how he ends up in the book is nothing like what happens in the film.
Oh, okay.
Instead, they give that to Susan's mom.
Okay.
Because eventually Barlow in the book corrupts the priest.
Okay.
And there's this huge, sequence between them where he even challenges Callahan like to, hey, fight me without that cross. And so it's anyway. That it may have been too heavy even for cable TV, I guess.
Okay.
Who knows? But this I wanted to like this more.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it, but Salem's Lot is one of those rare books that I think should never have been made into a film. It's so much better in your own imagination.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you're just never going to keep people from making movies out of Stephen King stuff, and it's understandable.
Right.
But I've always felt like Jerusalem's Lot never gets a fair shake film-wise because there's so much in the book that is just so heavy and complex that it's best left to your own imagination. But that's that's my
and also because everything is so rushed. It's like every time an interesting character, like not an interesting, a character that they have introduced for more than 3 seconds gets turned. It's like, well, okay, we're going.
Exactly. Yeah, on to the next thing.
Yeah. I did like the Mark character though. So you go ahead. What's your ranking on this guy?
Gosh, this is 2 tacos. I'm just again, it's for me 3 strikes now on Salem's Lot in media.
Yeah.
But again, maybe part of the issue with me is that I love this book so much.
Yeah.
From just strictly a movie standpoint, it felt very television in its production. I wish it had been a series. They would have had more time to explore the book a little deeper and gotten closer. And again, the acting was over the top. It was pretty forgettable.
Yeah.
Overall, but I will say this before I hand it back to you, if you don't mind. The plot point that I wonder if this is going to turn into a sequel. The book has both a prologue and an epilogue.
Okay.
And in the prologue, you find that Mark and Ben are in Mexico.
Okay.
Actually, the prologue actually only gives you the fact that they're on the run and they're filling some vials with holy water, and they start to glow just like the crosses did in the movie. And Ben turns to Mark and says, "They found us." And then the book begins. In the epilogue, you learn that they indeed are being chased by they had gone to Mexico to try to hide, but now they've been found. And there's this whole, Stephen King does this often where he leaves his books with, and then what happened? And the way it concludes is that he and Mark decide they got to go back and destroy the town because surely there's still vampires there.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wonder if the idea is to create at least one more. But I don't think this movie is going to do well enough in any capacity for a studio to greenlight another one.
No.
So.
And can we just get a fucking Long Walk adaptation for God's sakes? All right. Next is the one that you specifically said we're not doing spoilers, and I said absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Conclave. All right.
Wow.
Okay. So this is. I love that this movie got made.
Yeah.
This is fresh out of 1988. And I say that just in the sense of this is the kind of movie that just doesn't get made anymore. An adult, just, interest, not a thriller, but just a straight up drama with a very niche sort of audience, because I mean, I don't know how anybody who's not Catholic is going to this movie and it isn't falling asleep after like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was wrapped. I was interested. I was in. This is a movie about a pope has died.
Right.
We never even get who the pope's name or anything. They leave that up to you. What you can call him whoever you want.
Right.
And it's the behind the scenes machinations of the College of Cardinals that are responsible for electing the new pope.
Right.
As they, and that happens in a process called the Conclave, and Ray Fiennes plays the dean of the college, who basically is responsible for herding cats in essence, but also gets a vote himself, and all the different sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Niches or what's the when you're in school and
cliques.
The different cliques within the college, are how they're playing the game and how they're trying to amass enough votes. I think it's like you need like 2/3. How they're the machinations in order to maneuver to get enough votes.
Exactly.
And I was fascinated.
And as someone who knows a bit about the process, because I've always there was a time in my life where I studied a lot of religions and
did you grow up Catholic or
I did.
Okay, cool.
And number one, I love that we finally have a film, and I'm going to use the word thriller. This was a psychological thriller.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right.
In that and I love that you use the word adult, because I hate to use the cliche. They don't make movies like this anymore. They don't.
No,
they don't.
These movies get redlit so rarely,
and
you have to be super weird. You have to have something going on.
Yeah, Paul, right from the outset, just speaking about the film. Why did I love this movie?
Yeah,
because it was purely driven by dialogue.
Yeah.
Cast of thousands. When's the last time we saw that?
Yeah.
The cast in this film is someone, and again, I don't know the back, the backroom workings, but someone decided this book was released in 2016. Someone decided to take their time in not only putting together the screenplay, which already they're talking Oscar for adapted.
Yeah.
And they probably had a long conversation around, these are the people we specifically want.
Yeah.
Because this cast makes this film.
Oh, 100%.
The writing feeds the cast so well.
Yeah.
And it was just, at the moment I saw I had seen the trailer once and was like in.
Yeah.
And the only reason I had to ask you, like, are you going to include this, was because it was so heavily religiously themed.
Yeah.
that I just wanted to be sure that we were on the same page as wanting to have, because the cast alone, I'm like, Paul's going to want to talk about this film. I know.
Well,
And so
yeah.
I made the extra time necessary. I literally landed in Houston. Or not landed. I drove to Houston.
Yeah.
And I got here at 3. The movie was at 5. Like, I was
Okay.
not going to miss out on a chance to talk about this movie with you. And I'm so glad I watched it, because it's so rare that we get movies like this anymore.
Yeah. And my favorite part about this movie is, even though it has Oscar buzz around it, and even though the subject matter is super Oscar baity, it didn't feel like just straight up Oscar bait.
Right.
You know, like it genuinely felt like we are going to make a really good movie. Like,
Exactly.
and I'll transpose this against last year's Maestro, where it was like, you could make the argument that, you know, last year's Maestro was supposed to be an earnest, genuine movie that you know, just was telling the story of Leonard Bernstein, but it really felt not earnest and not genuine.
Right.
Whereas this movie just really felt earnest and genuine. Like like you could go back and you know, make this movie and like cast like Richard Burton, you know, in a role, and you know, give him like John Lithgow's role, and you know, it just pick out any actor that was in his 50s and 60s in the 80s that was still cooking, and you know, just put them in these roles, and it would have been super fun.
Yeah. This movie, one of the, I don't know if you'll agree with this comparison, but in terms of, again, standing out as a film that is it was not intended to be Oscar bait. It was just a film.
Right.
The last time I felt like this at a movie was Schindler's List.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Where
yeah.
it was, you know, the filmmaker just went after it.
Yeah.
Oscars be damned. I'm gonna make this movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's, you know, coming out of the theater, I was like, what is the last time a movie moved me this way?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to steal and give away what you told me, but you had a very distinct reaction, as did I.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this movie just, it edge of my seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every twist and turn, everything that was discussed, everything that occurred. There's moments of silence where, you know, oh God, now what?
Yeah.
And it draws you in.
And the fact that this book was written in 2016 and the movie's coming out in 2024, those are not coincidences.
Sure.
I don't think either one of
I
those
get what you're saying. Yeah.
And I swear to God, I hope the book and the movie are right this time.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, I don't even know what more to say. Like this was clearly the best of the 3 movies. Like that we had to talk about the other 2.
By far.
There was no way I could talk about those other 2 after talking about this. It's just,
I'm so glad that you picked the order.
And like the interesting thing about this is like there just isn't enough. Like I there's not even enough plot where I could like explain what it's just like. There's awesome moments between characters, and there are 4 key potential candidates.
Yeah.
And from 4 key cliques within the Cardinal College, and you know it's not going to go how, you know, in any of the ways that you think it's going to go, just because you don't have a movie if it goes in any way that you think it's going to go. All right, you just don't have a movie. Something has to happen, like, you know. So and when the things, and it's not just when the things happen that twist and turn this movie, it's perfection. It really is. It's exactly what you want from a movie. And and bravo. You know, this is not a movie that I would be like, oh, I gotta go turn this on again. You know,
Right,
it's
right.
not that. It's not that. But absolutely, if anybody said, "Oh, what movie should I go see?" I would say, just go see Conclave.
Absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
gonna have a good time. You're gonna enjoy yourself. It's you're not gonna end it and be like, well, I could have seen something else and been, you know, and felt better about the money spent.
No, this is time well spent. And
Yeah,
I have to number one, how great is it to continue to see Isabella Rossellini in films, no matter the
absolutely.
role.
Yeah,
But
they needed to give her like 10 more minutes.
oh,
But
sure,
yeah,
absolutely. But her moment, oh,
yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Stanley Tucci, always,
So good.
oh, there's enough here for me to
Yeah.
think there's something in the offing for him, hopefully.
I
Um,
would love it. I would love it. I don't know, but he's just Stanley Tucci, and it's great.
yeah, exactly. But there's one I want to point out, and only because as the movie began, I was like, hey, I just saw this guy. I recently finished the series Gangs of London on Netflix,
Okay.
and the actor Lucian Samadi, who played Cardinal Adeyemi,
Okay. Oh
um,
yeah.
he's a main character in that series,
Really?
and just such a brilliant actor. But I'd never seen him before Gangs of London, and now within a week of finishing that series, he's in this movie, and I'm like, okay, this is cool to see that he's now in and maybe he's in other films I'm just not aware of, but yeah, he's a brilliant every actor. And Paul, the joy I had watching this and thinking about it afterwards, about each, I went and I found the cast list just to refresh my memory, and every single person hits
Yeah.
in this film. And
Yeah.
and I kept thinking to myself, this is what Paul means when he talks about how important a screenplay is.
Yeah, and also the wonderful thing about this is like even direction too, because
Mhm.
it's so easy when you have somebody on of the level of Ray Fiennes to have him, you know, overshadow, or somebody with the personality of John Lithgow to come
Right.
in and nobody steals a scene. There's not
Exactly.
a single moment where that you feel like one of the people on screen is just not pulling their weight.
Right.
Everybody pulls their weight. And that's because of the screenplay, being timed so perfectly,
Yeah.
and the director just knowing exactly, the editor too. I mean, this is a perfectly, this is a masterclass in editing, and how you keep the pacing of a movie like this. It just has to go.
Yeah.
It just
It
has to go until you reach a moment where, all right, take a moment.
yeah.
All right, we got to go again.
And
You
and,
know?
and its beauty
Yeah,
is that it isn't, you don't think of it as the important movie that it is until you have finished it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
I hope we revisit this sometime down the road
But
when we
yeah,
when
yeah,
we
you
can
had
both
mentioned,
spoil it.
yeah. So okay, yeah. So let's do our rankings. Where are
Yeah.
you?
This is 5 plus squawk.
Five plus
This
squawk. Okay.
yeah, absolutely 5
Um,
plus squawk for me.
awesome. Yeah, I'm not there. I'm 4 plus guac.
Okay.
But it's fantastic. It really is
Really.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You know,
Loved it.
no
Yeah. I mean,
complaints, no notes. Just,
yeah.
you know, good
I
times.
yeah, I told I was walking out of the Jen had no interest in this film. And as I was walking out of the theater, I'm like, you need to see this. And
Would
she's
she
like, all
like
right, I'll
it?
watch it. I think she will. I think she
Okay.
will.
All right.
Because purely because of what we just said. It's important, but you got to watch the whole film to be able to know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, my friend. What you had mentioned, what's next on your
I
must
think
watch?
Gladiator's next.
Gladiator
I
2.
think
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. We got a few weeks
And
out. Yeah.
Paul, before I go, I just want to say thank you, because in such a busy weekend that I had, these 3 films were a joy.
Okay, great.
Regardless of my overall feeling, it was
Yeah.
I didn't hate any of them. So
Good.
I'm glad we had a chance to
Great.
talk, Paul. Thank you.
I'm surprised you're saying that, because you never give anything 2 tacos. So the fact that you're saying you didn't hate Salem's Lot,
Yeah.
no, that's fine. All right, Sergio. Hey, it's awesome seeing you. I got one more movie to do,
All right.
so I will catch you later for Gladiator 2. All
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
right, bye. All right, here I am. I got one more to do. It's Woman of the Hour. Anna Kendrick comes out and directs a movie, and it's streaming on Netflix now. This is the story of the dating game killer. So it's a true crime movie about a serial killer that appeared on the dating game. And I got to tell you, I went in blind. I went into this blind. I had no idea what it was about. I had no idea that it was based on a true story. It just popped up on my Netflix, and I was like, oh, okay, new movie. Anna Kendrick, I love her. Let's pop it in. This was a really good movie. You know, directorial debut of Anna Kendrick, thumbs up. She does a really good job. She told a good story, a captivating story. She picked a character to base the movie on, even though the character that she picked, basically the contestant that was on the dating game, is a footnote of a footnote in the terrible atrocities that this serial killer performed. She's an interesting character. You know how much she embellishes or whatever in order to, because she actually plays that character as well. I don't know. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because I liked the character. All right. And it worked within the framework of telling the story of a serial killer. And you know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just going to say, definitely check out Woman of the Hour. I mean, you know, it's okay that it went straight to streaming. I would have missed this if it had come to the theaters first. I would have missed it, and I would have, you know, gone and watched it once it hit Netflix and been like, oh man, I would have enjoyed seeing this in the theater. The fact that it wasn't released in theaters, I'm cool with. Totally 100% worth watching on Netflix. You know, it's not, I mean, look, it's not winning any awards. It's a really good Three Taco movie. Like I would watch this again before I watch 100% before I watch Venom or Salem's Lot again. Like, it's a lot of it's interesting. It was really interesting. It did what a true story should do. It made me go and look it up on the Wikipedia, and I ended up going down a serial killer rabbit hole, which is never fun. But I recommend Women of the Other. That's all we got. Women of the Hour. That's all we got here at Real Talk. I hope you'll come back next week where I will not be back next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks. I will be not available to do the show next week. But yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks and we'll see you then. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you.